basically introduce Blake and Jenna and
Before we get started with some question and answers, general discussion amongst the audience, I'm going to let Mr. Blake Swaggart with Tennessee Economic and Community Development. I'll let him say a few words, and then we'll kind of open it up to more of a roundtable type discussion. For our county officials or any other official in the audience, if you've got any questions, please ask them, because you're going to have the expertise up here with the state of Tennessee being represented, as well as Mr. Bill Fruit. And we also have a sign-in sheet. Got started a little later, but it'll be passed around to your table. Please just put your name and your email down so we can thank you for your attending, and also keep you on our email list, going forward as far as notifications when we get these officials coming in and presenting to the public. So right now I'll turn it over to Blake if you want to say a few words, and then I'll let you and Mr. Fruit take over.
Good morning. My name is Blake Swaggart. I'm with the State of Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. I work in the Northwest region. Mr. Fruit, I want to say thank you today for putting the time and effort, and Mayor Lashley and the Benton County Industrial Board for bringing this group together to start looking at the future of Benton County and the I-40 corridor. We know it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of time, but you have to start somewhere. And I just want to say thank you. Also, since 2015, really since the RIO Act, which is the Rural Economic Opportunity Act, we at the state of Tennessee, and I want to say thanks to the governor, previous governor, the current governor, and the General Assembly, we've been able to start really focusing on those two top things that Mr. Fruit really was hitting in his presentation. As we're always told, even in Nashville, when we go up for staff meetings, you have to have inventory or product on your shelf for clients that are looking to locate into the state of Tennessee. And to us, being inventory, that's buildings, that's available sites, that is prepared sites. So we have really focused on trying to invest in the RIO Act into rural Tennessee with programs as the Property Evaluation Program known as PEP, to be able to identify sites in the county where we bring in Austin Consulting out of Cleveland, Ohio, to more or less assess those sites and really kind of address what the best sites in the county are. And that leads into the next to our site development grant program, which our communities have taken advantage of across the state to be able to do due diligence on that site once it's been identified. A lot of times it's last dollar infrastructure. Say a client came and looked at that site and it needed some grading done, or it needed water line or sewer line, something that could be last dollar infrastructure that helped. Why did we not win this project? Because it was last dollar infrastructure. And really those programs are helping the rural communities across the state to be able to compete and have available sites from that standpoint. So we've really been focusing on that. And the other main thing that we've been focusing on to help in rural Tennessee is broadband, because broadband is key to rural Tennessee. Is making sure that we have grants that the General Assembly funds each year, and we're thankful for the General Assembly for funding those grants. So we have providers that can go out there and access those rural opportunity funds to be able to provide rural broadband to our citizens across the state of Tennessee that need broadband, especially in the rural areas. The second point he talked about was labor, which is also a key point. And we always look at the pipeline of labor, and a lot of times when we're sitting down, even with existing industry clients on competitive projects, we talk about the site or the building, what needs to be done with that, but it always comes to be number 2 or 3 is labor. And companies, and they do not look at labor at stopping at county lines, state lines, or city lines. I mean, it is a regional workforce. Regional workforce is 50 miles. A lot of times we bring in our partners from TBA, Aaron Stewart and Chuck Marquis. You know, they have a great economic research team that does lots of great things, especially on helping us identify labor market. You know, Jennifer Bain with the Workforce Board, she's with Northwest. We bring them in to show those clients, and every time we show, it's easily a 50 or 75-minute drive of where the labor's coming. And if you look at 50 to 75-minute drive in West Tennessee, that stretches a good while, and that crosses many county lines. So, as Mr. Fruit was saying, economic development is a regional labor workforce game. I mean, it's producing the best workforce. And that's where we've also go back and want to thank the General Assembly too, because of the Tennessee Promise that was instituted. Because one of the things we were finding out is that we were having shortage of skilled labor to be able to fill those positions, and why we were losing projects. And the promise we're hoping is that to be able to get those kids into the pipeline, because we need those skills that are coming out of the pipeline. But what we were finding out, even with that pipeline of students coming into the pipeline, we were still not producing enough of applications coming out of the community colleges or the TCATs to be able to produce those certificate jobs that we needed in maintenance, to be able to meet the needs of the client looking, but also our existing industry. But we're having to rely on now, we need the reconnect that the legislature put in. We need to have those folks to reconnect back in, because we need those skills also to be able to address the pipeline of labor to meet the needs for the workforce of today, but also the workforce of tomorrow. Because labor is the key, and it's a regional labor shed we all work out of. You know, we drive down the highway and we see a watershed where water flows. And you see all these signs on the I-40 or whatever it says. This is the Hatchie River watershed that crosses hundreds of miles across different state lines. It's just like labor. The labor shed crosses 50 miles to 75 miles when companies are looking in a region to bring in an industry that might employ 150 to 200 people. And I'm just going to kind of stop there, but I just want to now open it up to questions.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, if any of you have any comments, just going to move that back here. Yes, you come back. Go ahead.
And one of the things that when we talk about a regional industrial recruiter development team, where do we find someone that's going to have the skill set? I mean, this has got to be a very highly skilled individual that really understands the needs and the social environment of rural communities. So how do we go about recruiting?
Well, there are professional organizations, economic development professionals. There's certification. There are economic development is not rocket science. It's harder. Any kid can shoot off a rocket. But an economic development professional is a jack of all trades. And you see real estate, labor, all this stuff. But there are, it's a big industry. There are thousands of people out there who are trained economic developers with certification. Now, the principles I described here of what your president would do and your vice president of retention would do are the same in a rural area as they are in a metro area. Now, these individuals are not cheap. about the price of a city manager. But this area, to be honest, it isn't gonna be easy for you to get a professional to come here.
Bill, can I jump in?
Oh, yeah.
You all may not know this, but I went to school with a young man, Mark Herberson from Henry County. I believe he may have his certification in industrial development. He's been working for Memphis for the Chamber of Commerce as part of their industrial development board. I think he's been hired by somebody else now, but there are people like that. And Mark Herberson grew up in Henry County, so these folks are out there. There's people that know this area, so that can easily be accomplished. And if you're going to pay the salary, you'll attract the talent.
Yeah, we've met.
Yeah.
But there are Tennessee Economic Developers Association. They're just professionals, they're certified economic. They're out there. It's just you can't go cheap. You gotta get a pro. You gotta get somebody educated. Same thing. But I'm recommending two professionals. One, all that person does is existing industry. It's that important. Okay. More questions? Oh, come on. You getting tired? I mean, I spoke in Sioux City, Iowa, and I didn't get any questions, and I said, well, why didn't I get any questions? And the lady said, well, Hawkeyes never admit they don't know everything.
Tommy Brewer, I'm the industrial board. I appreciate everybody coming out today, and hope it's been informative. We had some discussion in your precursor meeting that we had, we talked about community college and campus, and I was, of course, we obviously have the UT Martin extension. Something that this is just rather than developing something within it's just a thought that you didn't mention.
But you have a population base of 100. Program. And I think it essential you do this. It needs to be a bigger operation. Enterprise Center is there. It's within a 35-minute drive for almost everyone if the roads are complete. And so the student population, the industrial population can be served from that location. That's one of the most important recommendations. You cannot get by with just scattered branch campuses in the 4-county area, because none of them can do what's going to have to be done necessary. Right? Yes, sir, Representative.
Bill, let me ask you, and Blake, if you want to comment too, about walking through actually setting up the district, industrial district that's going to, and funding that, and then for possible grant opportunities to get matching funds from the state and feds if we set up the regional industrial authority.
Well, the two issues. One would be the Economic Development Organization, which is the 4-county that I'm recommending based upon commuting pattern and geography. That is being funded. I've actually provided a sample set of bylaws for it. This is not my first rodeo. I've given you bylaws that you can study and probably work for you. The second is the Enterprise Center. That's a different entity. And what I think what has to be done there is that it would take legislative action to create a political island. That in that political island, the contributory, it would have bonding authority, the participating counties would probably have to throw some cash into it to get it going. I don't know if it can be, I don't know Tennessee law that well, whether or not it could be a tax increment finance district that you plow everything, keep plowing everything back into it so that it becomes self-sufficient and paying for itself. the development costs and everything else. But each county, it doesn't matter what county it goes into, the structure of it would be that it's its own political entity, and if there's cash tax throw-off, then that goes back to all the participating counties. That the county is located in would not receive the property taxes generated from that. Any property taxes that were not plowed back into the park would be distributed by the participating counties. So I think that's the structure, but I think that's going to take an act of legislature to do that.
I would agree with you, and sort of the first thought that pops to my mind, because we are talking about 4 counties that have suffered economically for a number of years, perhaps some sort of legislation that there could be a rebate of the sales taxes already generated in this 4-county region to be designated to fund this industrial development board. So therefore, it would be no new taxes for the residents of this area. The state would simply take less of their portion of the state sales tax that they normally get.
Yes. This is where, when you employ your professional economic developer, that whole process is studied. And it's been done before. I mean, I spoke to the County Commission Association in Georgia, and these commissioners came up to me and said, how can we do an industrial park? Our 4 counties all come to the same point. I said, we'll put it at one point and have the legislature create an authority, and that's what they did. And so, but this is why, if it's going into Decatur, it might, who knows, Decatur does not get the property taxes from this. But those taxes are spread out among the participating counties who have pledged to this.
I can't speak for Decatur, and maybe this is a question for Brett or Blake, but isn't 126 an opportunity designated as an opportunity zone, which could lead to some incentives for private investment there? Is that not
It is.
the Benton County?
That 126, it was in the Benton County side.
On the Benton County side, at least, about
Yeah, it was put in as an opportunity. I don't know, was it on the Decatur side? So, I do know it is an opportunity up there.
And that those opportunity zones are huge tax incentives and advantages for major capital investments over a 10-year period.
Well, given the economic trend of the 4 counties, I assume any distressed funds would be available to assist with this. This thing is basically, it's not easy to do, but it's doable because it's been done in other counties, other areas. And so since we know it can be done, the irony is that your location is so great. I mean, you're between, geographically, if you don't want the congestion of Nashville, this is a wonderful place. That I-40 corridor is a wonderful location. But anyway, market demand is going to grow. You know where we were 10 years ago. Can you imagine where we're going to be 20 years from now? And I firmly believe that this enterprise center, 20 years from now, will have a minimum of 5,000 people working there, likely 10,000 people. And someone's going to wake up in the morning and say, thank God somebody thought of doing this 20 years ago. That's what's going to happen. And so I just try to motivate and encourage you to proceed with this. Mayor?
I'll make a comment and I'll question. I think the hardest thing for us to grasp is that regional concept. We like to think of Decatur County or Benton County or these various counties, but as in Columbus, Mississippi, they call themselves the Golden Triangle. And though their hub of their office, their enterprise center might be Columbus, Mississippi, their building sites, their industrial sites are located throughout that various counties. So it's not like we have to be competitive. We can still think of ourselves as one. The main thing is drawing the focus to our region, that our region offers something that no other region around Tennessee can. So having said that, when it comes to mindset of trying to find one 1,500-acre site, or do we go at it with a mindset of maybe 3 750-acre sites, because some landowners aren't going to be willing participants, or they're not. It's going to cost us quite a bit of deal. So it's a strategy to get one site or three sites?
So right now, you've got about 20 acres, so Benton County's out of the picture. Decatur's putting in, you've got your industrial area there near I-40. Henderson County's got some property they're developing near I-40. All of these will be needed. And the way this program works, when I took over Palm Beach County's Economic Development Group, we had 27 cities and 13 chambers of commerce I had to deal with. The county's larger than the state of Rhode Island. And so how do I do it? How did I set up this program? Because you're gonna have 4 counties. Well, it's all driven by real estate. That you get a client inquiry and they need 10 acres, and from your industrial, the 4-county industrial inventory, all right, there are 3 locations in the 4 counties that meet their criteria. All 3 are submitted. The region is the data for the region is provided, and your economic development organization services all 4 counties fairly, and it's driven by real estate. Now, each county can adopt its own incentive packages if it wants to. Each county can develop more industrial property. The Enterprise Center is exactly that. This is for big stuff. This is for advanced manufacturing. It's because it's so centrally located. And I also think you're going to see retail develop there because you have a population now of 110,000 within 35-minute drive. Now, what's the good about the retail? If we can capture those sales taxes from the retail and plow it back into the park, the thing really starts paying for itself. And that's why the only reason I would ever think about recruiting retail to an industrial park is that we can capture the taxes to plow back into the cost of the park. Within several years, I mean, I don't know how many years it'll take. This thing will pay for itself after users start getting into it. But the Economic Development Organization, while it's 4 counties, represents a region, but every region is a participant on its own, driven by the real estate they've developed. Because first of all, the Enterprise Center, at best case, you can't build anything on that for 4 years. As we sit in this room, it's not buildable for 4 years. In the meantime, all this other land that you folks have will be utilized. Now, it also may be necessary by market demand that a rail park be put in, and that's not on I-40. And that does go through Carroll and Benton County. There may be a market demand for 200 or 300 acre rail site. Well, then Benton County and coordinated by the Economic Development Organization can develop that property. So I help answer your question? Yes.
Yeah, Arnold, I've been selling real estate for 35 years, and this is our field of dreams. You know, if we build it, they'll come, because, you know, Benton County and Decatur County, we share the same zip code in Holiday. You know, we're mostly family on one side of the road and another, and it's a benefit, you know, to the 2 counties. Now, I know it's a 4-county thing. Is Carroll County and Henderson County, are they home with this ideal? Which is just a hope that they would be, or I know we got a mayor from Benton and Decatur County here, but when people comes and looks at our county, you know, I've told them for years, I said, we're the hub of the wheel, you know, because from here, you can be anywhere you want to be. You can go north, south, east, or west. We've got a ton of people that commute to Jackson and Dixon working, and I've got people that's moving from Nashville here and commuting back to Nashville, working at Amazon. You know, so I mean, if we have something to offer these people that call in, it is going to be a benefit for our county. And I think it's a good plan. I mean, we've talked about, some of us talked about this for years and years and years, that the interstate is going to be the growth of Benton and Decatur County. And, you know, we've got to get the opportunity zones and everything else that's out there. You know, it sounds like that this would be the best plan for Benton County, Decatur County to move up. We got Love's truck stops coming. It's just like you said, whether or not you got the property available to offer.
And that's your first question. I met with Mayor Butler on 2 the rest of the regional approach, and I'll let Mayor Lashley talk about Mayor Gray and Henderson. I spoke to him. The concept was interesting. Now, all 4 counties are in the same economic. I mean, these are tough areas. But frankly, it's tough because you haven't done anything for 10 years, to be quite honest. You have missed opportunities. But keep in mind, for every beginning, there's an ending, and you need to begin working on your future. You need a beginning. So, yes, sir. Do you need the mic?
My name is Paul Summers. I own a home in South Benton County. I'm originally from Fayette County. Somerville's the county seat of Fayette County. About 12 years ago, the Economic Development Department in the state of Tennessee developed what is now a 4,600 acre mega site at exit 42, which is equidistant between Memphis and Jackson. And it's supposed to, when it hits, it's supposed to be the largest mega site probably in the southeastern United States. Exit 126 is equidistant between Nashville and Jackson, and probably has the same economic climate that exit 42 down in rural West Tennessee had. My question is this, not trying to put ECD on the spot here, but has the state of Tennessee and economic development ever considered maybe making at least a mini megasite at exit 126 like they did at exit 42 with 4,600 acres?
I'm not sure if we have or not. I mean, I know that the exit 42 mega site was, it's been a project that's been in the work for
12 years.
12 years. Probably even before that. I know it was a concept before that, so it's probably been a 20-year type of project from that standpoint. It's just something that would have to be addressed at the top of the department from that standpoint. It's just something to look at, but like I said, the exit 42 site is the first and foremost site right now, because that's where the infrastructure is going, that's where they're focusing on, but it's not to say that something cannot be done this way.
We'd appreciate you looking at that.
If I may.
Bring in the
Call Mike for this one.
Yeah, bring in Mike over there for the.
Blake doesn't know this yet. I formed the reform. I felt like that the urban parts of Tennessee and that's great, but now I think dollars and make sure our rural the infrastructure and everything. Workforce, the education part, they've got the rail, they've got the interstates, they have all of those things in place. And we don't. But we deserve the same opportunity to try to get good jobs and keep our young kids graduating, going to school here, going to college, but coming back to our communities rather than being forced to go to the big cities to find decent paying jobs. So, and Blake doesn't know this yet, I'm kind of going to let the cat out of the bag. I've drafted legislation that will require ECD to come up with a plan that will reshift some of the incentive dollars back to the rural distressed counties. And I've pulled the data, it's ECD data. Over the last 5 years, there's been about, it's about 3 to 1 number of dollars that get spent on the 17 urban counties versus all the 67 rural counties. Now, if you break that down, to be fair, if you break it down by a per capita basis, the ECD is probably spending more per capita on the rural districts. Not by a lot, but some. But if you break it down on a per county basis, the 17 urban counties get about $5 million each of direct ECD dollars versus, I believe it's like if there's 15 million going to the urban counties, the rural counties only get like $5 million. So it's a 3 to 1 better incentive for the urban counties versus the rural counties. And so what I want to try to do is give ECD a chance to come up with a plan or program to flip that around and say for the next 4 years going forward, we're going to spend 3 times as much on the rural counties and rural economic development than we would on the urban people. Because I think that's fair, we need to heat it up. So I'm advocating for that. And also, I wanted to mention this. Think of the cost of the opportunity lost. If we don't do this, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, we're going to be in the exact same spot or worse with economic development and our kids having to move away and our tax base declining. So if we don't do something now to try to push this, then we take the initiative. It's up to us. We're the voters. We're in control. We insist upon this. And that's why when Brett and I were both running, I was just thrilled. He and I had the same ideas. We've got to focus on our economic and community development. And we've got to get our industrial manufacturing job base re-energized. We lost it when we lost NAFTA. We need to flip it around and get it back on. So let me thank y'all for, I'm trying to do that for y'all up in the state. So.
Well, I think it's probably easier to speak in the microphone, but just to, a little education is that when people hear mega site, they think that the state owns the mega site or TVA owns a mega site, that they've gone out there and it's their industrial park. But these mega sites are actually owned by industrial boards, or they're owned by the county. It's our responsibility to actually go and acquire the land. What TVA does is come in and they certify that your land is appropriate, that it meets all the qualifications for industrial development. So a lot of times I think people get lost in the idea that, oh, we want a mega site, we want a mega site. The state, y'all go and buy one, or TVA go and buy one, but really we have to acquire it. And that's what Mr. Fruit said, that this regional body would actually have bonding authority. They would go secure the debt, and then the counties would probably pay a portion of that particular debt service. And how much are we talking about? We could be talking anywhere from $10 to $20 million in a blink of an eye. And Benton County actually has a one owner, 2,800 acres, willing to sell us right now. However, that land is not conducive to development. It would require a great deal of money. Probably it'd be a unwise decision for Benton County and a regional body to embark on that endeavor. However, we need land. We need land as close to the interstate as we can. Unfortunately, people like to make money off of this, and we'll probably have to pay a premium price. But the premium price is still worth the investment when you look at the 20-year mindset, 25-year mindset. I guess what we have to do as county leaders in this regional concept is we have to determine what each county's share would be. I know Carroll County is interested, at least Mayor Butler is interested. It's up to him to sell his community that this is a good endeavor for Carroll County. It's up to Mayor Bray, who's also possessed an interest, to sell his community that this is a good endeavor. I would say about those two particular communities, Carroll County, as we know, is a very city-driven county. They've got multiple incorporated cities, and so for a county mayor, it's a little bit harder a challenge to be able to get everybody on board. But I will say, you saw the numbers. Carroll County's population is decreasing, their workforce is decreasing, they're commuting out. So they share that common concern with us that if they don't do something, it's only going to continue to get worse. Henderson County is in that same boat. The thing with Henderson County is they adjoin Madison County, so a lot of their population is becoming incorporated into Madison County. And what's going to happen to Henderson County is the exodus will eventually hit them. When people are working in Madison County and working, they're probably later on down the road going to decide to locate in Madison County. So their population decline will also continue. And that's why the strategic location would probably be 126, exit 126, because what that does is that reverses that outward flow towards Memphis and Jackson for these counties like Carroll, and it begins bringing it the opposite direction. So that means that their workers stay home. They don't relocate. They may work out of the county, but they don't relocate. So I believe this regional concept is the way to go. If we look at this as a 20 or 25-year plan, it's not so overwhelming. Acquiring the property will be our biggest challenge, but we already know we've got the upper hand. If we can acquire the property, or at least get options on a property, TVA in the state of Tennessee then comes in and say, we will help you do the evaluations on those properties, ensure that they meet all the compliances, and if they do, suddenly getting the borrowing power to purchase those properties becomes a lot easier. So, Keith, you know, you're a realtor. I think Kathy Hooten, you know, y'all work in real estate every day. The Benton County Industrial Board has cash in the bank. We're willing to be able to acquire options on land if someone is willing to sell. But of course, we don't want to put together a 35-acre tract. We want to put together a 500, 750, 1,000 or greater parcels of property. And the Benton County Industrial Board will help develop our local economy by having that money in the bank to go and acquire the options, so at least we can go in there and determine if that's industrial property or not. Because we don't want to purchase it only to find out later that there's Indian burial grounds there, or there's there's like the Hatchie River, the mega site down in Brownsville, that there's a drainage and environmental problem. We want to run our due diligence and ensure that we can develop property over the long term. Mayor Christie, I don't know if you've got anything to say, if you want to.
No, I love the concept. Like other mayors, you know, getting my people supporting it is going to be a challenge, and I'm sure you'll have that same problem. I do, you know, I think, well, me and you have talked about it even before you got mayor about the connectivity that Decatur and Benton County hold. So, every good thing starts with an ideal.
And Mayor Christie also, he and I actually made the trek to Columbus, Mississippi 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, to meet with Mr. Joe Max Higgins, and that led to bigger things down the road in the next year. Representative they had one, and I think we made a good move in going and taking the time to meet with Mr. Joe Max. So I'll turn it back over. Anyone's got any questions?
I did this in Benton, Georgia, 4 hours of questions. It was fun. It really was. Well, with that, I need to finish up here. Of the strongest economies, I never got to number 10. Number 10, the community wants it to happen. I can assure you, if the community is against, drive, spirit, cooperation, existing companies need to be encouraged, not berated, new companies need to come in. But the community needs to support the plan. So let's quickly return to all you've heard about was Lowndes County, Mississippi, population 60,000 people. They have done an amazing job there. I've been advising them for about come in and review our program. And said, wait a minute, Joe, you got the best program in the country, you're knocking them down. You've been on 60 Minutes, you're doing all this. No. We know we can always do better. We need you to come in and do an evaluation, take a look at what we're doing. So I went in there and spent 3 or 4 days and talked to people again, came up with 2 or 3 things. Number 1, it is a 3-county region now. Started out as 1, it's now a 3-county region. And in this region is Oktibbeha County, home of Mississippi State University, which you may have heard of. It's their flagship university, their research university, but they needed to take the next step for economic development, and that is to develop a 500 to 1,000 acre university research park. that companies would go there, build factories and facilities and associate with the university. I met with the university president. I'm looking at 3,500 vacant acres out his window. I said, you need to do this. This is what Wisconsin has done. University of Central Florida has a 1,200 acre park with 10,000 people working there. This is your next step. And I don't want to do it. What? I don't want to do it. If you don't have the university president on board, you ain't got it. The next problem I saw was that about 38 to 40% of the people working in all these great factories were over the age of 65 or 55, and that they were going to retire. And their problem for this area was workforce. I looked at them, I said, wait, you got all kinds of population here. You shouldn't have a problem of supply until I looked at the data. And the data was in Lowndes County that 37% of the working age population was not working. And in Clay County to the north, it was 40% of the working age population was not working. Generational welfare, generational entitlements. Many of these folks had never worked a day in their life. The value of their entitlements is roughly $27,000 a year. And this was a problem. And so I sat back and thought, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I said, well, it's time. We have to figure out a way to inspire people to choose the value of work over the value of welfare. How do we do that? Well, individuals who are 40 years old are long lost. 35 years old are probably long lost. The target market was 10-year-olds. 10, 15, 20, 25 to 30-year-olds to develop a program to inspire them to choose work over welfare. And I told them you have to build a building, an inspiration center, and develop programs to show them all the wonderful things you can do with your life and to get them to choose a different path than welfare. Well, I leave town. Those are my two major recommendations. 60 days later, I get a call. Beal, that's what you call it. John Mexican. Beal, I got your 500 acres. What are you talking about? For the university park. I thought the president was against it. I don't care about him. The county wanted to do it. It's a great idea. We optioned 500 acres across from the university. The county's going to do it. 90 days later. Beal, what? I got your 40 million. What? For what? Your inspiration center. We got 40 million. They had committed $40 million and began to plan a 150,000 square foot communiversity, of which they already had one of the best training programs at the community college. 110,000 square feet for customized training for the industry, 40,000 square feet dedicated to inspiring the community to choose a better life. Began construction on it. They have finished this structure about a month and a half ago. A community can do anything it wants if it has the will to do it. And you have so many opportunities here. All you have to do is make the commitment to see it through. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me, and I'd be happy to come back again if you pay me to do it. That's at their industrial park in Columbus. Yeah, Columbus, Mississippi. Yeah.
Let's do a show of hands. How many people after hearing the presentation are like 100% on board want to see this thing happen in this area? Show of hands. All right, anybody's like, well, maybe needs a little more evaluation. Show of hands. Everybody's on board. Awesome.
Never, you're the political person. We've never had 100% vote on anything, have we?
Bill, thank you so much. A great presentation. I've heard lots of compliments on it when we had our break. You know, there's one thing for sure, people. We can sit here and do nothing, and it's just like Bill. Have great grandchildren that are in the same way that we have children and grandchildren. So let's try to put this together. We're gonna try to keep everybody in the loop of everything that's going on. I know it's a lot of money. You know, it's mind-boggling, but it's also mind-boggling to know what we can have in this area. We can do it. We can do it if we put our minds to it. Thank you for coming. I'd also like to thank All Occasions Catering, Christy Hodge, and Teresa Jones. They're the ones that did the food, so if anybody needs any catering, be sure and give them a call. Thank you for coming. We're gonna be in touch. We're gonna keep this thing moving. Mayor, you need anything else?
Just what you said, where there's no vision, the people perish. And I believe our timing is good in Benton County. I think there is a commitment, I think there's a determination that we need to begin doing something as a county, which I'm excited about. The partnership that this is going to also foster and that regional mindset. And again, it's a little bit of learning curve, but if we look at things as over a 20-year timeline, we'll see ourselves as one. We'll see ourselves as a golden triangle that they have in Mississippi, right? They don't call themselves Columbus, Mississippi, or they call themselves the Golden Triangle. So again, there's a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity for us as county governments to be able to work together and make this come to reality. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.